Increasingly in our world, we are being fed pictures from organizations such as BuzzFeed. But as Rob Pagorio notes, BuzzFeed gets much of its content without asking permission to use it. As YouTuber CGP Grey has noted, he always has to prioritize projects that, in his word, will be more popular on his current list over the most important or the most interesting projects. This is because advertising on YouTube is built on views, and older videos tend to get less views than new videos. So most channels on YouTube try to push out more content even if the content is low quality because it pays. The same is true for click-through sites like BuzzFeed and Huffington Post. These sites are built on the idea that they take the work others have done, put it on their site, usually without asking, and then they say the content creators reap the rewards because people click back to your blog or article. In their minds, everyone wins. But of course, the problem is, just like on YouTube, the articles and lists that come from HuffPost and BuzzFeed tend to emphasize things like this, which emphasize the divisiveness of an issue over its reality. As a wise man once said, the world is not split into good people and Death Eaters, and the reality can sometimes be quite more complicated. This has led journalists like Ezra Klein to say, the media loves covering scandals. We don't love telling you when the scandal falls apart. He goes on to cite an article by Professor Brendan Nyhan, who talks about the recent 2013 crises at the IRS, namely that the White House and the IRS were supposedly targeting conservative groups exclusively. Nyhan goes on to say that contrary to the initial hype, there is no credible evidence of White House involvement or even evidence the Tea Party or other conservative groups were targeted exclusively. Nyhan also notes the surge in news coverage of a new issue like gun control, followed by a fairly rapid decline. In other words, after Sandy Hook, instead of focusing on ways to end school shootings by moderate limitations on the sale of guns in the United States, the media creates a false dichotomy between the NRA, who asks teachers to arm themselves, and far-left liberals who want to ban all guns everywhere. When it comes to the actual legislation and the actual concrete changes that cities and counties can take to make small, incremental changes with policies like gun control, the media shies away because, quoting Nyhan again, the press quickly loses interest after the most sensational charges are not substantiated. The problem is that it often lacks time for the full set of facts to come out. By that time, the story is old news, and the more complex or ambiguous details that often emerge are buried or ignored. Now, you might be saying there is nothing that you can do to try and fix this trend, but you can. You can stop visiting sites that emphasize pithy one-liners like the one I mentioned above, and read your news and information from sites that have proven track records as places that follow stories through to their completion, and try to give you at least a somewhat nuanced view of the real problems of America.